Hi there, it's Denise Eckert, and I love coming on here and sharing different ideas and techniques to help you create a happier lifestyle. And today I've got Hannah Turner, and she's a poet and a writer whose work transforms the raw honesty of recovery into art. Inspired by her early sobriety as a student in Paris, her collection, The Clarity of Chaos, seeks to illuminate a path of hope for others. Through authentic and compassionate storytelling, Hannah proves that vulnerability is a bridge to healing and that beauty can emerge from the struggle. So, welcome, Hannah.
Thank you so much for having me, Denise. I'm happy to be here.
Now, what inspired you to do this type of work? So, that must have been difficult being in France and becoming sober.
Yeah, I moved to Paris about 5 years ago, and when I moved, I was still drinking. And about a year into my moving there, I got sober, and it was a long time coming. I knew that I had to make that choice, and I think being so far away from home helped me wake up. And what helped me find writing, and especially writing poetry, was it was an outlet for me to manage the difficulties of early sobriety. And that first year of not drinking is really hard, and of quitting any vice, I think, is really challenging because you're faced with yourself for the first time without an alteration or a substance. And I was also in school and writing my thesis. And so I was very overwhelmed, and it was a way to help process very challenging emotions through poetry.
Now, when you did quit, did you have any support over there, or were you just a student doing your thing? Did you have family or friends or anybody over there to help you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. My family has always been so supportive, and my mom and my siblings and have always been really supportive. And so I would come home a lot, especially in my early days of being sober. Any break that I had, I would come home and be with them, and I was always talking to them. And when I first decided to get sober, I opened up to my best friend over there and told her that I needed to stop drinking, and she helped me go to my first AA meeting. And throughout the first year, I did a lot of meetings, and I did the 12 steps and I had a sponsor. But once I hit a year, I found that I wanted to go deeper into the journey. And so I started working on becoming a sober counselor myself and stopped going to meetings as much because I felt stronger in myself.
Now, what was the straw that broke the camel's back where you finally made that decision, enough is enough?
Many little moments leading up to the big one. I think for many years I realized that my drinking was out of control, but then there were times that it shrunk and I was like, oh, maybe this is fine. I think the two big ones was a good friend of mine passed away from drinking, and he was someone who I never would have thought had that bad of a problem and very young. And so that kind of really shook me and made me realize that if I kept drinking, that was a very strong possibility that would happen to me. And then the straw that broke the camel's back was I was living alone in Paris, and I would drink alone a lot, especially towards the end. I would just go home at my apartment and drink until I passed out. And one morning I woke up on the couch, and there was this video that I had made on my phone that I don't remember making. And I pressed play, and it was a video that I had made from the night before when I was very drunk, begging my sober self to stop drinking. And that watching myself, so many people can tell you to stop, but you can't do it for anyone else but you at the end of the day. And yeah, so to see myself in that state, begging myself to stop, that was the last straw.
Now, I heard someone say on, I don't know whether it was a podcast or a reel, but the reason why we drink is because we have other issues and we are using that basically just as a crutch, and we need to work on those other issues or triggers that set us off. What are your thoughts on that, being a sober counselor now?
Yes, I totally agree. I totally agree. I think that alcohol or whatever your addiction is, the medicine that your body is trying to get from a different problem. I don't think that the addiction itself is the problem. And I completely agree. Once I got sober, I had to face what I was running from. And it's a lot of, for me at least, it was a lot of shame and a lot of self-loathing. And I'm a very hypersensitive person with everything, with emotions, with just outside with my surroundings, with physically sensitive. And growing up, I had a lot of shame around that because I think we live in a culture that sees sensitivity and vulnerability as a weakness. I think it's starting to change now, but when I was growing up, I was made to feel really wrong about feeling so sad about people stepping on snails outside. That used to break my heart as a little kid, and I would just burst into tears. Or sensitivities with just feeling things so intensely and being so vulnerable and no filter and just saying what I felt. And so I think years of trying to hide that and trying to toughen up. And then when I found drinking in my late teens, I was like, oh, this is perfect. This is a number that hides my sensitivity and kind of hardens it. And so then for about 10 years, I numbed all of those feelings and all of those vulnerabilities and self-loathing feelings. And then when I first got sober, all the thing that happens when you numb is those feelings don't go away, is they just get pushed down. And so when you stop your vice, especially those first couple months, it's like years of not taking out the trash comes in and you just have to face it. And so that was very hard. And I'm still 3.5 years sober now. And for the most part, I feel like the worst is gone, but there's still things that pop up every now and then.
Good for you. Okay, so what I've always heard was that if you are questioning your drinking, more than likely you have a drinking problem. So for someone that's listening to this right now, if they do think I need to do something about my drinking, what are some of the first steps that they can do?
Talk about it first of all. Saying it, same with a lot of stigmatized topics, saying it takes away a lot of its power and a lot of the stigma. And I think another strong belief system that I hold and that I work with people is you don't have to hit rock bottom or have the typical alcoholic problem that you see on TV. I always thought leading up to getting sober, the alcoholic was the man on the street drinking out of a paper bag. I'm like, I'm not that, so I'm fine. And you don't have to be that in order to stop drinking or in order to look at your relationship with alcohol. And anyone can evaluate their relationship with it. And I know a lot of people who have chosen not to drink just because they were tired of being hungover. And so I would say talk about it with someone. I would say, or for me, it was writing about it too. I look back at some of my writings when I was hungover and how sad I was back then. And then maybe experiment. What does it feel like to slow down? What does it feel like to have a couple weeks without drinking? I think another way that I knew that I had a problem was my partner at the time asked me to go 1 week without drinking, like a full 7 days. And that felt like he was asking me to do 10 years without drinking. I was like, oh, I can't do that. And so see what that feels like. See what not drinking for a couple of days feels. Ask your friends to do activities with you that don't involve drinking because it's so rooted. Again, I think it's changing a bit, but it's so rooted in social dynamics more than any other drug. Maybe marijuana, but with alcohol, you go to bars and you go to parties and you go, let's go grab a drink, let's meet up for a drink. So ask your friends to do activities that don't involve alcohol and see what it feels like to be social without drinking. And that's another thing for me. It took a while for me to be comfortable in my body socially without alcohol. And I think that's the next part that I really work on clients with is getting more comfortable being in your body without a suppressant or without a substance. is I felt so deeply uncomfortable in my own skin when I was sober. And I had no idea. That was the scariest part for me, I think, was I didn't recognize my body. I didn't know how to, I felt like I had to learn how to walk and talk again for the first time. I was like, who is this person? I don't know this body and I don't know how to operate. And so I incorporate a lot of embodiment practices and a lot of easing back into yourself slowly and with compassion. And yeah.
Yeah, I find in our, I don't know, in our culture, we're always like, when we do something, it has to be quick, fast, yesterday. There's no process, it's instant. Now, from being a coach or a therapist around alcohol, what are your thoughts on moderation?
That's a really good question. Ah,
Did you try moderation first or did you just do cold turkey?
yeah, I thought I could. I played a lot of mind games with myself. I'm like, oh, if I just stick to tequila, then I that could work. Or if I just stick to drinking on the weekends, that could work. And it never did. Maybe for 2 weeks, it was only 2 nights a week. But then every time it would slowly creep back up into every single night. And so I think being really honest with yourself because it's so easy to play mind games, especially because alcohol is a neurotoxin. So it is so easy to manipulate your mind into thinking it's fine, everything's fine. You can have one more glass of wine tonight, and it's just wine. That's another one that I hear a lot. It's just wine. It's basically water. And so
Grapes here and there, yeah.
I think being really honest with yourself, and if I'm being honest, people, for the most part, I have not seen people who struggle with alcohol succeed in moderation, is because it always creeps back up. Now, people who don't struggle, like my mom is someone who can have a Negroni once a month and be fine, or maybe tops once a week and be fine. I've always been so jealous of that. I haven't seen her have more than one drink in a long time. So if you've never struggled with it, then yeah, of course, moderation works for you. But if it's a struggle, I also say that it was so much easier for me to just cancel it out altogether than it was for me to moderate because moderating, it took so much more energy of, okay, maybe if I have two tonight and then maybe two on Friday and then two and it just became so exhausting to always calculate and to get myself to stop and to get my just stopping takes way less energy than moderating. It's like, okay, I don't drink anymore, period.
And what about substituting for something else, like gummies or smoking a joint or anything like that? What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I have a poem in my upcoming book called Harm Reduction. And harm reduction, I believe, is a real thing. And it was one of the problems I had with AA meetings is they want you to go cold turkey. I remember I was taking CBD drops to sleep and without THC, but CBD. And I had someone in the meeting saying, you can't do that. It's like, so I think to each their own on this and what works. I know I drink too much coffee right now. I know that is my new problem that I need to work on, but it's not as harmful for me personally as alcohol was. And it helps me wake up and it tastes really good. And I know that I eventually need to wean or sugar or
Yeah,
yeah.
I can relate to that one.
Absolutely. Or watching TV. I watch way too much TV right now too. And yes, it's good to notice these things, but harm reduction, like you said, is so important. Slow and be easy on yourself. If it's not as dangerous as I was also into cocaine for a while when I was drinking, and that was very dangerous. And I think, yeah, and if smoking a joint or edibles, I have two clients right now that are do edibles to help them relax when they really want a drink. And that has less repercussions for them than drinking. And they've been able to stop drinking with that. And so I think really having so much self-compassion with yourself.
I love that. And it is building that self-compassion and also building the self-trust. Can you talk a little bit about how to build that self-trust in ourselves?
That's a really good question. Oh my gosh.
Especially after drinking, because there's times where you've made a fool of yourself and
Yeah,
the shame that you're dealing and the guilt.
yeah. And for me, at least, I became such a liar when I was drinking, when I was struggling with substance abuse. I lied constantly. And at first, it was just to protect the fact that I was drinking, but then it just became a habit. I was a habitual liar. And that's also what landed me into my first AA meeting was like, I don't recognize myself anymore. I no longer know what's true and what's not true because I've just told people so many lies and lying to my family about what I was doing behind their backs. And I lost trust in myself. And that I think is a very scary feeling is to not trust yourself. I think the first step in saying that I have a problem starts to rebuild that trust and to tell other people I have a problem. And I think for me, doing the 12 steps, the one of the biggest takeaways was learning how to apologize and learning how to take accountability for my actions and apologizing to those that I hurt and saying, as long as I don't drink, I will never do that to you again. Or I will never say that to you again. And it took a while to build trust in others, and it took a while to build trust in me. But slowly, I think when my actions started to mirror what I was saying, that really helped of, oh, I actually trust that I am not gonna drink again. I trust that I have my own back. And I'm more, now that I'm more in my body and I have healed my inner wounds with myself and I've apologized to myself for how I've treated my body and how I've treated my younger self. I remember when I was about 3 months sober, my brother, I think he won't mind me saying this, but my brother said, "This is great that you're getting sober, but I'll be honest, I don't trust this new you," because he has seen me try to get sober so many times. And when I was drinking, I would say awful things to him. And he's my little brother. And so he saw his older sister drunk and mean way too many times as like a little brother should never have to see that. And so it was so impactful for me to hear. And he wasn't trying to be mean. He was like, I just don't trust this. And as the years went on and I stayed sober and I showed him with actions, then he really started to trust me and I started to trust myself. And now he knows that I will never drink again. And I know that I'll never drink again. And I think it takes time to build that self-trust again. I think really looking at how far you've come too, and really looking at your actions now. And I am someone who I still make mistakes all the time with people, but I'm able to take accountability and responsibility for that. And each time I say sorry, or each time I don't drink or do the right thing or do something really good for my body, each of those little, even if it's the tiniest little thing, it's a tool in my toolbox to remind me, yes, I trust myself and I know I have my own back.
That's wonderful. So now a lot of your work is creative and art and writing. So for someone that's listening, how can they start incorporating that into their lives if they are going through quitting? Yeah, it's not an easy thing. As you said, it's so
No.
cultural. And I
Yeah.
mean, it depends on where you live. My background is German. Everything revolves around
Mhm.
alcohol. I mean,
Yeah.
there's champagne for breakfast.
Yeah. So my relatives are Irish, so I really understand that
Yeah.
this is similar. They're like, what are you talking about? You have a problem. Here's a beer. It's fine. But I think find what works for you. I've got two clients that love painting, that find their creativity in painting and that they find such an outlet in it. And for me, it's writing. And so I think find something or go out and be in nature. I love hiking and find something that works for you that feels like a creative outlet. And that's where the art piece has come into my life is it really feels like a creative outlet for my emotions that are really hard to explain with verbal words for me. And then with coaching and with therapy, talking about it, like I said in the beginning of this interview, takes away a lot of its power. And part of my work and my purpose is to eliminate the shame and stigma of addiction. And so by talking about it and by sharing my experience. And so if you find someone, whether that be a coach or a therapist or even a friend, to talk about it with, that alleviates a lot of its power and movement.
Move that body. Yeah. Great information. Thank you for sharing that with us today. So we're going to be wrapping this up. So can you share a poem from your book with us today?
Yes, of course.
Well, you've got the
Uh,
floor.
this poem is called The Rules of Social Drinking, and it was inspired by a friend of mine who recently got sober and who was expressing his frustration for our rules as a society of drinking and how they just didn't make sense to him. And so I went home and wrote this poem. You must partake. Don't be a party pooper. Don't make people uncomfortable by not drinking. If you want to be included, you must keep up with everyone. But be able to hold your liquor. Don't ever make a scene by getting sick or falling over. Don't make anyone have to care for you. Don't have too much, don't have too little. Don't address issues with alcohol. You don't want to be a bummer. With these social rules of drinking, how do we expect anyone to not have a problem?
That's powerful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, great. So wherever you're watching or listening to this, I will be putting Hannah's information. And yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and ask Hannah your questions. So thank you so much, Hannah.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm just going to leave you a gentle reminder to slow down and enjoy life, and I'll see you in the next episode.